Okay, so now that that test went through and it was successfully uploaded and, dare I say, high quality, I will expound on the big update uh, in the last year and a half. That is, since I started the structural design position, um, entry level, that is. And now it's gotten a little bit, I want to say, a little bit more involved, and at the same time, logistically, I want to say stifling, because, for example, I have I mean, probably 3 weeks of vacation time. I took 1 week off to go to Florida, and there's a reason for that, by the way, but I'll explain later. And also, the reason why that's logistically stifling is because, for example, if I want to quit this job so I can move on, it would be stupid to not use those hours. But at the same time, how am I supposed to use those hours? Because there's this book called, and I'm going to advertise for you, Aaron Clary, if you're watching. It's called Reconnaissance Man, which explains, ideally you would want to be, and I'm 25, turning 26 next month, you'd want to be in college or just before college, reading this book, knowing that you have much more value going to different states, going to traveling essentially, even to, could be Europe, could be anywhere, to figure out where you actually want to be. Because statistically, where you're born is not where you are going to fit. Now, the reason for this is because when you are born, of course, you're going to have inherent in you certain things about you. For some reason, it could just be influenced by the TV. It could be influenced by what people said and all that stuff, and some concept. Could also be, but then there's the other side, which is, so I can't say the exact terms, but then there's the other side where it's more environmentally influenced. So in that case, then you would have a penchant towards going to the place you were born in. Although, again, it's not 100% the case that you're going to be entirely influenced by your environment. So of course, you're going to want to live somewhere else, most likely. You're gonna, if you, for example, if I go to, when I went to Florida, I thought, this is my place, this is where I want to be, this is, I like to go out here. It's not just this thing where I'm antisocial and I can't go out, or I can't go out and talk to girls, I can't go out and talk to guys, I can't go out and try to expand my horizon, so to speak, things like that, and try to essentially develop my own life. It's the same thing with you. So, and then it's like, if I compare it to California, it's like there's nothing. It's like it's a whole other world to me. It's like, oh my God, why didn't I do this sooner? So that's one thing you need to consider if you really want to, like, make your own life. So, and that's very important. No one ever does that. They usually they die with unfulfilled potential, basically. And that's something that Dan Pena talks about. It's a lot of what people in the business world talk about. So I would recommend you first of all, read this book, Reconnaissance Man by Aaron Clary, and also go out and venture off, try to figure out where you want to be. So all it took was 1 week of a vacation. I could tell you that, holy shit, I should have done this much sooner. Although I've optimized essentially since the age of 17 or 8, it could have even been 16, to pretty much put myself in the best position I possibly could financially, and any other aspect of life, really. But in a delayed gratification way. It's all been delayed gratification up to this point. I should say, really, up to a year ago. Let me explain why. So, about a year ago, what I decided to do was I said, well, I've my whole life I've just been studying. I've just been like going playing video games. Even in high school, all I did was play Pokemon, um, and like try to look things up on eBay. Try to um, be like pretty much desperately trying to get in a better position. And I used to think like, why is no one helping me? I used to always think like, no one's helping me, no one's helping me, no one's helping me. And over time, I essentially realized that, you know, I could only do. There's no one else that. I mean, I got so desperate. I remember I was 16. I asked one of my friends, "Can I borrow your credit card?" This was a stupid request. Looking back, because I was going to purchase a Magic the Gathering card. That was then about 2,000. I think now it's $10,000. The Black Lotus from the Alpha um, booster pack, but from the 1993, I believe. But if you think about all these things, like I just thought, suddenly it clicked that if I wanted to do anything that was going to uplift myself, and that was essentially what you would consider to be investing in yourself. You can't expect anybody to help you out. You have to be self-reliant. And it suddenly clicked because I was getting in trouble for these things and trying to rely on other people. And when that realization clicked, I was sort of testing it out, because I thought, for example, well, my family members have to help to some extent, right? I mean, like they should be able to provide me a car at least, or provide me with something that will help me out. And of course, their justification was, well, you're living with us, so we're helping you out there, or we provide housing if you need it. And well, these are all justifications, of course, because they just wanted to appear like they were actually helping when they weren't doing shit. I mean, they were, but looking back, it's like, yeah, I could see the bigger picture. They could have kicked me out. Like my father could have kicked me out and said, hey, I'll be honest though, yeah, his value system is really helping me out right now, to be honest. Back then I couldn't appreciate it, but other than that, other than my father, no one was able to help. So, without going into immense detail on this kind of thing, because I don't want to go through my whole life process, what I'm saying is that basically there's a lot of aspects of life which I pretty much just skipped. I just said, screw it, I'm going for the prize. Just focused. I was getting a 4.0 at the community college, and I didn't do too bad in Berkeley. I got my EIT, of course, and my license. It took a long time to get my license. I eventually got it. And I didn't get a car until about a year ago, and that was actually provided from my father. So I really appreciate him for doing that. And it's helping me out now. So like this whole thing about delayed gratification is actually helping me out now. So for example, I don't have a compulsion to spend recklessly, although I must admit right now I'm in a luxury apartment, but I don't pay very much for it. We were able to get a deal because of something called home share. So we're paying three of us are paying for a 2-bedroom apartment, and it makes it very affordable. And I live close to my work. That was the ultimate luxury for me. Is the reason why and that's another delayed gratification aspect, because the idea of living closer to work is continuously convincing my boss, and if he's watching this, it's fine, but it's continuously convincing him that by the time this lease is over, I can work remotely in a place that's like 2 hours away, which I can use my rent money on a mortgage, and that in itself is going to pay off. So it is a delayed gratification aspect to it, even though I have to pay a little bit more than I would in some other location. It really is a little bit more, but it's definitely not a bad deal. But okay, so now that that's out of the way, I wanted to explain certain aspects of life, because before I get to that, let me explain that when I was in college, like, again, I didn't do shit. Like, all I did was study. That was it, pretty much. I did not go out, and I was basically like, it was my eye was on the prize. I said, nothing else matters, just that. That's it. I just want that. And yeah, it was a very goal-oriented thing, and it worked out, or it's working out, I should say. Of course, I don't approach everything in terms of goal orientation, although you have to strategize and you have to plan to make sure that something might go wrong. So as long as you do that, you're fine, which means that you develop a system for things that can go wrong. So, in my case right now, in terms of investments, I'm not even considering anything other than real estate, because real estate is the least risky of everything. So right now, I'm not getting, I'm not putting money into stocks, bonds, mutual funds, no Bitcoin, none of that, because I realize that it's simply about delayed gratification. You start off at one level and you keep building your way up, so that when you reach here, you can then take more risks. You could just basically throw money at it. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. So the whole idea of investing is, to me, that's there's still a considerable amount of delayed gratification. It's fine. So I also wanted to talk about so I was going to go towards something else. Sorry, I'm kind of drifting off because I'm trying to be careful with my voice. Somebody else doesn't like to, that I'm living with, is very careful about that. But oh God, what was it? So yeah, the whole idea of the different aspects of life, right? So what I'm trying to say is that basically, because I'm like this, where I delay gratification just about on every level, so much to the point where I'll sacrifice, I don't know, it's just everything. Although there's a certain level to it, but basically, so if we think about what's going on, right? There's like investing, there's money, there's like the intellect. You want to, show that you can, or prove to yourself that you can understand high-level concepts, that you can apply it in multiple areas, that you can connect the dots. You could read a book and say, I understand how to apply this, and I'm going to apply this. And the list goes on as far as intellect goes. So there's that. There's those two things. So money, intellect. There's also, of course, girls, right? So that's another aspect which I was always, even when I was younger, my 3-year-old, 5-year-old, I was always very confused about. And it's understandable, but essentially, I want to say that we're kind of all hardwired a certain way. So there's this idea that basically the state that we're in right now, the state of humanity, is such that you have people called incels, or they call themselves incels. You have people that are trying to do the feminists. Then you have people that are trying to oppose that. These people are what they might call the red pill community. Perhaps even what I would consider sigma males, or what they call themselves sigma males. And the list goes on. So the state of humanity right now is such that, and I'm quoting someone else, that we kind of want something, and we'll get it at all costs. We'll try and even if we can't get it, we'll keep trying to get it. It's like we're afraid of losing, and we fear not getting. Is basically how this person put it, and that resonated with me because it's the goddamn truth. And so this is hardwired in us all. And if you look at it from that point of view, you have these people that are, they think, oh shit, I don't want to lose that sense of, that attention. So they're gonna perhaps side on feminism, or on the guy side, and they might go for the red pill community because they essentially they want to get they want to keep winning there. They don't want to stop, and that's completely understandable. It's hardwired in us. So that's certainly hardwired in me. It's like, so basically there's this idea of testosterone in soy boys, right? So when you give in to this leftist, propaganda, you're essentially giving into the soy boy / feminist crowds, where they're trying to make you feel weak. They're trying to make you feel like you can't put power into anything. And I was feeling it in college. I'll tell you that much. They're trying to make you turn into a woman, essentially, because they don't want you to win. They want you to lose. They don't want anyone to fight for what they desire. They want everyone to be the same. They want you to basically be a cog in a big machinery. And this machinery, see, what it comes down to is basically collectivism versus individualism. And collectivism, everything is collectivism as far as this leftist bullshit goes. So they're collectivists, and they want you to be a collectivist. They want you to be that cog in the machinery. And as soon as you act as an individual, there's a strong opposition against you. And in this state right now, more particularly California and other leftist areas, it's very they're hardwired. The people there in these locations are hardwired to go against anything that would be related to the individual, such as testosterone boosts, such as what you would do to increase that testosterone boost. And I'll just name a few. Chasing women is one of them. Let me see. Establishing your own criteria for things, having your own judgment, in developing your own judgment and acting upon that so these three things, are a few examples. So I sort of had a mind shift. The reason for this is because I, when I was in college, I started realizing that the professors were sort of catering to the women in a very collectivist way, and I couldn't explain what that meant. So hopefully it makes sense to you now. And so that was no wonder why my GPA was being sabotaged. It was, and I didn't even feel like I could talk to professors. It was like, what's going on here? Why do I feel like I'm being pinned to the ground? Why do I feel like I can't create my own judgment and try to talk about this and try to get feedback on what's coming from my head? Why is this happening to me? I don't understand. And essentially, I took the red pill. I mean, the red pill thing, it was more of a purple pill thing for a while, because remember, there were other experiences where I was basically shown the red pill, like, why are people not helping you out like they should? And this is what it comes down to, is collectivism versus individualism. So, as soon as you're an individual, they're not going to help you out. That's pretty much what it comes down to. They're not going to, because they want you to be a collectivist. So this is a very interesting topic. Now, these are not my own ideas, I have to admit. Now, it's kind of ironic that I'm talking about this, because they are not my own ideas. They come from a very smart man, but to say the least. But I learn from these people every day. I learn from Dan Pena. I learn from everyone every day. I mean, I do come up with some original thoughts, of course, but it's not. These people, they've filtered out information so well that I can't help but adopt their thinking. And it's impeccable, really. So, coming from this point of view, before I say that, basically what has brought me to the attention right now, even though I'm tired, very tired, I just feel like sleeping. I even dressed up a little bit. I was prompted from an event which I just found ridiculous, because essentially right now, I think I'm sort of in burnout mode when it comes to women. It only took 7 lays. My notch count is 7, and I already feel like I'm burning out a little bit. And there was an indication for why that's the case. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'll just put it that much. So I want to explain that essentially this aspect of life, chasing girls, right? It comes a lot from that idea of being an individual. It's not this bullshit about, like, you're just this Donald Trump motherfucker who's being degrading to women. It's not about that. Although it can be. It depends on your intent, although it's not my intent. I'm sure some women thought that. Many women have. To be honest, I don't give a shit. But yeah, there's another book I want to explain that I want to show you that I've been reading. It's called Game by Rushvi. This has really good content, in my opinion. It's been helping me a lot. Like, I was reading in towards Florida, and I pulled some of what he was saying, but for the most part, it just kind of like allows you to connect the dots. Like, oh, what's going on here? Why did I go to the bar and then she suddenly left, and then now she doesn't even come back? Not only that, she's congregating with all these women, and now they're telling me, hey, you shouldn't be touching that girl. Why did that happen? Well, maybe you didn't properly go in for it. You didn't identify that this was the mother hen who was the cock blocker of the group. And you should have said, hey, you should have asked her like she was your mother, like she was her mother, to go up to her and say, let me take this woman because she's interested in me. So anyway, that would be one example of how this book's been helping, because it's like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that shit? Anyway. But essentially, what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, I mean, that's what it really comes down to. And, yeah, about a year ago, this is when it clicked, because my roommate at the time sat down with me and we sort of discussed girls a little bit. And, I just told him, I said, this is just something that it's just, I've never been able to become successful at. And I just told him the truth. It was the goddamn truth. And it was like, it was also one of those things, because when I was in college, I wanted to get all the like straight A's, trying to do as well as I possibly could. And I did not see a connection between that and your testosterone, or like being an individual, or doing those kinds of things. It was more about, well, maybe I need to study more, or maybe I need to do this. But this, I didn't realize, but all these things, they add up. They help you in every area of your life. And so it's not about like degrading women. It's not about like trying to like, rape people or make people feel bad. It's about being an individual, because you want to optimize your state. You want to chase excellence. You want to do the best job you possibly can. And it's hardwired in us. So approaching girls and that kind of thing should not be stomped on, should not be opposed, should not be like looked down on or anything like that. So I kind of clicked, because he sat down with me and he told me, he said, you have no excuse. And I thought, wait, what is he talking about? No excuse. Because I told him, I said, well, it's just something that never was never important to me. I just thought, well, eventually I'll find a woman or something. And I was still purple pilled, like I said. So, it makes perfect sense to just go ahead and chase, like to go ahead and approach. Well, the other thing that also helped me to realize, again, that kind of helped me to realize this whole thing where you should just go ahead and approach, was a video by Arthur Arcturus on why there are mass shootings. And I still 100% agree with that video. Again, I told you, there's incels, there's people who, they just, they're not afraid to end their life. They're not afraid to, they have balls. They're mode 4, which look that up. And they're not afraid to go on a shooting spree. It's becoming more and more pronounced nowadays, or in modern times, you're going to see more of it. And this tells, and then also, there's also game too. Game, why do we need game? Why do we need to read about chasing women? Why do we need any of this stuff? It's because there's a rise of feminism, rise of incels, people who just haven't been able to sit down and try to figure out their non-masculine issues, so their masculine issues. And it makes perfect sense. Like, now that the tables have turned completely around for me as far as masculinity goes, I feel so much more energized, and I have a lot more force in what I'm doing, and that I can focus more. I can do things with a lot more precision. I don't have to, and I don't feel like I'm not sitting there depressed thinking, why did this coworker tell me this thing, or why did this thing happen? I'm not sitting there too much thinking about that. I'm contemplating the complexities of the thing I'm working on. It's amazing what masculinity and individualism can do for you. I highly recommend that you try to adopt these traits within yourself. And so it's very important, in my opinion. Now, the reason why I actually recorded this, now I'm going back, I know I'm going all over the place, but the reason why I recorded this had to do with some fucked up thing I did, and I feel like I am burning out. Even though it is important to do these things for your testosterone level, for your masculinity, individualism, there might be signs of burning out. So for me personally, I think I'm burning out. I got to figure out how to deal with this, and I hope it doesn't go go south. Although there's some signs that it is going south. But again, let me go back to the game thing, right? So this is kind of tied together. So the whole game thing, why do we need game? It's because we're no longer able to just select a mate, and the mate then becomes optimized for individualism. And what you would often what they are called now, or they call them tradcons, which is traditional conservatives, and basically they're very rare. So if you find a woman that way, keep her, and that's that way too. But see, a lot of people that are like me, they assume that they're going to marry the first person they see and that she's going to do all this stuff for them. That just isn't the reality. I've recently heard from one of the Red Man Group videos that there's a 35-35-35 rule, which means that you should have gotten laid 35 times by the time you're 35. And by that time, then it's likely you would have found someone who's a tradcon and somebody who would be wife material. And the other 35, I don't know what the other 35 means. But anyway, so this is very important because, again, it goes back to individualism and masculinity. Now, a lot of women especially like to have this counter argument, like, how can you say that chasing women has to do with masculinity? A man should be defined by his ability to understand, or they come up with all these bullshit elements. Ability to understand, can sit with you, and can like, just imagine Tarzan, or just imagine some guy like kind of just throwing himself out there and kind of like taking her. And I want to say the ultimate symbol of this would be, and because I know this because my mother used to watch, it's called Dr. Quinn. He's the ultimate symbol for what women want in men, but in reality, or what women say they want in men, but in reality, it never works out that way of what they really want. So now this is a controversial statement, and I'm just going to assume this is true. But what was I going to say? So the guy's name is, what's his name? Brasky? I forgot it. It's on the tip of my tongue. I forgot his name. Anyway, he's like this superhero kind of guy in Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. God, I forgot his name. Sully. That's his name, Sully. It's a good thing I remembered that. But every woman thinks that they want that. But I'm not going to go mode 4 anymore. I'm just saying that the truth. So, going back to my realization, when he said, my friend told me, and my roommate told me, there's no more excuse, it made me think a lot about what was going on, because at the time, I assumed that anyone around me wouldn't be worth pursuing. Anyone in California wouldn't be worth pursuing. And to me, I just thought, like, why go out to clubs, or why go out to bars and chase women if it's just not worth it? And I used to think that. And I still do largely. I mean, the ROI is so low. I don't recommend it. I really don't recommend it. Although I just gave it a try because I just thought, okay, I'll trust my friend. We'll see what this means. And I actually wouldn't recommend going to bars and clubs in this area. I mean, go to Florida. Go to places that are more right leaning. Go to Florida. Go to what was it? Maybe Colorado. I haven't visited. Maybe Arizona. More particularly Las Vegas, of course. It's gonna be a masculine boost for sure. But what I'm saying here is that realization allowed me to sort of move forward. It was one of those things where I put off for a very long time. So I just thought, like, I'll just go for it. And like, there was a woman who entered my life in November 1st, and I just didn't know how to handle the situation. I mean, it was bad. I actually, that was my first lay, of course, and then after that, somehow it was just happening left like once a month. So this is kind of an interesting topic, but the thing is, you might think like, originally I would have assumed that I was just going to wait until I can find a woman in a foreign country that I can marry. That was my original thought. I thought, like, that's how it works, right? I was like, if you're smart about it, that's how it works. So I would just pretend like a woman that was not even existent. In fact, I would convince myself that they were just a piece of shit. And that worked pretty well. That was pretty high level MGTOW, to be honest. And that's fine. If that's how you feel, that's fine, because then you're going to chase excellence anyways. So at the end of the day, you're good, but not necessarily. There's always going to be something missing. You're going to be like, why is this thing missing? Like, and again, it has to do with masculinity, because the overall environment is trying to squash you. It's trying to make you a woman. It's trying to make you do the opposite of an individual. So I started making these connections, and I thought, do not feel bad about chasing women. This is what you gotta do. Now, everyone I know disagrees with me on this, but like in my family and stuff like that, they think that I'm out there just trying to get laid, get hookups and all this bullshit, which is partially true, and like I'm telling you because I'm burning out on it. But really, it's essentially, you're looking for that tradcon. You're saying, I'm filtering out every little thing so that I can tell whether or not you're worth it. And that's pretty high level MGTOW in itself, but at the same time, you wouldn't mind getting laid. It's like, why not? But yeah, I know I'm disclosing some information. I may actually take this video down if it has negative consequences on myself for some reason. But anyway, and again, the whole chasing, all that stuff is related to masculinity and individualism. They've done studies that when you've accomplished something, your testosterone just rises. When you've been able to successfully, close deal on every aspect, business, women, everything, you get that big testosterone boost. I mean, it definitely reinforces the individualism. So, that being said, like right now, I still want to record the FE videos, of course, but it's been a long process, to say the least. So I have not mentioned work at all. This is kind of interesting. So I hope you understand where I'm coming from. But now that I've gotten that out of the way, which is something that you should understand, basically, I'm just going to talk about my goals. So right now, I'm actually doing structural engineering. And the thing is, like, it's tiring. the problem I'm having. See, a lot of people, most people, if they were in my situation, they'd be insane consumers. So what they would do is they would buy things to justify their miserable state. And what I've been doing is not that's not what I've been doing. I'm actually saving money, and I'm about to buy a condo to rent out as investment property. But personally for me, the thing that I go to now is chasing women, because it's like the whole thing with work is it makes me so like it's like the whole thing with the collectivism. It makes me feel so like boggled and I feel like I'm just in the corner so much that I feel like I have to do the exact opposite to get me to a neutral state, and i.e. chase women. So this is kind of an interesting thing because I think I'm on burnout mode as a result. I don't mean to, and by the way, it's not as it shouldn't be as important as other aspects, but I think that after about a year or so, it's becoming a little bit addictive, and I think I need to really reconsider what to do about this, because it's essentially connected again to that testosterone boost. It helps you basically reinforce your individualism. And there's other aspects of individualism I could talk about, like having dignity, serenity, and all this stuff, and that it's not my original ideas again. But the whole thing with chasing women is you can burn out fast. I'm reading this book and he's saying the same thing. It's like, oh yeah, you can really burn out fast, and it's really just a cheap way of reinforcing your individualism, which I think can be done in other ways. So I have to really reconsider my approach, because this thing might be unsustainable. But anyway, so that's basically what happens. Like, I really enjoy my job. I like, working out the drawings and trying to figure out how to. It's like a puzzle. It's like you're trying to figure out how to place everything on the drawing so that it can be read properly. That they can use the drawings to order parts to create your structure. Could be a 2-story remodel. That's what I was working on for a whole month. 331 pages of calculations. So, that being said, it's kind of interesting, right? It all kind of adds up together in strange ways. But, yeah, so as far as that goes, like, I haven't had any time again to do like FU videos because of all this. Like, right now I should be sleeping. I'm really tired. But yeah, that's really what's been going on, and I hope I explained myself pretty well, because all this stuff takes a lot of time. So I actually was working on this the last FE video since June of last year, so it's almost been a year. And it's the environmental section. It took a long time. I'm still editing it so that it can be properly watched, so that it won't bore you to death from my pauses, and perhaps my tone of voice might sound guttural to you, which is fine, but it's all right. But yeah, I literally have no other time for anything else. It's insane. I think I'm going to plan to get my PE as soon as possible, and I'll get like a 17K raise per year. I just need to look for another job and see if I can move forward with that. I think too, my plan is I want to own a structural firm eventually. And that's going to be pretty tough. So we'll see how things go. Now, again, I need to use my vacation hours. So this whole thing about like planning for vacation stuff is also a pain in the ass, because it's like, what am I supposed to do, right? Well, to use them wisely. So I was gonna, definitely the next spot I'm going to is Colorado, and we'll see how that goes. But I need a plan for it. I mean, because it depends on this, the utility. Like, why are you going there, right? Well, you want to feel out the place. And see, I have to read this book again. so that I know exactly like how to do reconnaissance, how to go out there and figure out, have the feel of how it interacts with me, the environment and stuff like that. So yeah, I just haven't had any time for anything else. I'm to be dead honest. Like right now I feel guilty because there's like a lot of stuff at work I haven't even finished. It's like I feel like it should take a lot less time, and I'm like, what's going on here? But it's just the nature of the job. There's so much variation, and I'm now past the point where my employer can no longer teach me anything really. If I ask a question, it's just to get some validation. It's just like, oh well, it's this, and it's nothing that I couldn't do. It's really just to get through it faster. It's not a learning thing anymore. He's pretty much taught me everything he could, and I think he kind of feels the same way. But it's just going to work. I mean, it's good and all, but yeah, it keeps adding up, and I feel strained all the time on my eyes. It's crazy. Like, so I'll sit down, and there's so much complexity to everything that we do. It's like I'll start to think like simple. I'm like, okay, it's just this, and this. Then it becomes grows and grows and grows. What we need to handle, and nobody is there to give me a list of exactly what I need to do. I have to figure out everything connected so that it gets the task gets properly done, and that the work gets executed properly. Like the contractors can know what to do. And it's a lot of work. That's why you really need to know that you want to do this. But yeah, I mean, that's about it. Again, my name is Raimundo Flores, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. And if you really want the FE videos, perhaps I can make it happen, but I would need a lot of support from Patreon. I mean, because normally I would use that time for things like studying for the PE, or again, like calling my realtor so that we can figure out another housing option, things like that, my free time. And then also, of course, chasing women. So and then also delaying gratification, saying, well, no, I'm not going to do that. I mean, to be honest, I saved quite a bit of money since I started working. I wouldn't say it's a hell of a lot, but it's enough to help me to start investing it and putting it away in housing and stuff like that. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a good night.